Apologies and welcome back, everybody. We are live from IBC and we have amazing Fabian Oberhammer, who is also known as the TheDizzyViper, who does amazing photorealistic work. His first time when I saw his work, I thought it was a photo, and I was asking him which film did you use because I do a lot of film photos, and he was like, "No, it's a render." I was like, "No, you're joking." And he was like, "No, it's a render," and then he showed me how he did it, and I was like, that is stunning. And he does a lot of daily posts and daily work, which is brilliant. He's going to take us through his process and how he looks at work not for monetization, but as passion. And he's going to take us through the process, and we are going to go through it. He's also shared some assets with us for you to download. So you can scan them, download the work of not just his, but other artists as well who have presented here and will present here. So please scan, and you can play along with it, not just today, but down the line as well. And I'll let Dizzy take ahead and explain further.
Yeah, thank you very much for the amazing introduction, Karan. I appreciate it very much. So, hello everybody. My name is Fabian Oberhammer, also known as the TheDizzyViper online. And my talk today is called No Financial Pressure on Art Since 2014. And that is because, well, I started exploring the 3D space in 2014, so just over 10 years ago, of which 8 years I'm using Cinema 4D. And so I did this work, or like the commissioned work and professional work for about 6 years, working in different movie studios or also freelancing, which I have both stopped quite fast after starting it, because it, like the title says, it puts too much financial pressure on my passion, which is the creation of art and 3D environments. Working in these studios pretty much left me with no choice but to do what my boss said, even though if I didn't like it that much, also with like super tight deadlines, which, yeah, just destroyed my passion within, I want to say within hours of starting the jobs. So I took a different approach. Nowadays I am doing art exhibitions, so like I'm doing fine art, as well as giving talks like the middle picture shows, like the one I'm doing today. And also doing client work, of course, which on the picture on the right you can see a picture of a live show from the DJ Excision, which I'm most of the time being involved in their yearly or 2 yearly projects and stage visuals. So I do not do this for a living, and that is not because I don't get clients, but it is on purpose. So my true passion stays clean of finances. That, of course, doesn't mean that I don't do client work, but that means that I freely choose which clients I will work with and which clients I don't want to work with, or on which projects I want to work on and on which projects I don't want to work on. So that leaves the question, of course. So, Fabian, what covers your bills? What do you do for a living? Well, first I'm going to show you my reel, and then I'm going to talk about what I do for a living. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. So the later project that you saw in the reel just now with the abandoned cars, that is what I'm going to into depth today in the second half of my presentation. But now, what do you do for a living? Sorry. There we go. This is what I do for a living. So I'm Italian. I'm from the Italian Alps and the Dolomites, and my family owns a small B&B, and that is what I do for a living. I do this simply because I needed something that covers my bills, that is not my true passion, but that I also don't absolutely hate doing. So that really came in handy, especially because it's just a half-day job. So I work from 8 to 1, and after that I can do whatever I want, which is perfect because, yeah, I have all the time that I need and all the time I want for the things that I love doing. So, yeah, why do I do it? It is exactly for that reason. It is because I did not want to... I'm trying to find the right word for this. I did not want to sabotage my passion and what I love doing because I have to think about money. Because to me, it just has no space in this path of my life. And it also makes my art worse. And I saw this for projects that I just didn't enjoy doing. I have worked with clients where I was like, it's paid well, but I really hate doing it. And I did it, and the client wasn't happy with it, of course, because it didn't turn out the way that my other work turns out. And I just had to tell him, look, this is the reason for it is because I didn't enjoy doing it. And or maybe also sometimes, maybe because, let me just log into this really quick. Hold on, I'll do that later. So I'm going to go a little bit into the clients that I work with and why I work with them. Most recently, for the past year or so, I have been getting into a very different field from my usual work, which is spacecraft. These are companies that came to me asking, hey, can we have a cool render of our spacecraft and how it works? And I told them, of course, let me try that. I'm very into space. I really like exploring that. And I like seeing how the technology works. So I told them, yeah, let's give it a try. I'm not sure if I can do it the way you want it right now, but I'm sure I can learn it during the process. And so we started working, or I started working with Atomos, which is a Colorado-based spacecraft company. And the job was so much fun, not only because it was a very interesting work, but because the people that I worked with were very understanding of my work. So they knew what they needed, they knew how they needed to talk to me, and they knew how to make me happy, so to say. Same with another company called GateSpace, which makes satellites as well. So so I make renders for them. I don't do the modeling on these things, actually. I get all the models from the companies that create the CAD models that are, of course, super accurate, and I'm just left with doing materials, animation, and just making it look cool for the clients. Even if it's sometimes not 100% accurate on what it will look like in real life, but it doesn't really matter because you will never see them in real life anyways. Nobody will. So as long as the propulsion system, for example, looks cool enough for the client to be, hey, that looks nice, my job is all done, and that's what I love. The next part is going to be my daily renders. This is what I've been doing for actually almost most part of my life, or a big part of my life now. I create one artwork every single day from start to finish, no exceptions, except for when I'm here. So when I'm on vacation or when I am giving talks in other cities, I do not own a laptop for rendering. I own a laptop, but it's not good enough for rendering. So I work ahead on those. But generally, I do one start to finish every single day. And actually, I don't spend a whole lot of time on these renders. Any render that you see on the screen right now was done in under 2 hours. And most of that is just fine-tuning lighting. So coming up with the idea usually takes a few seconds, or I get the idea throughout the day while I'm at work. And then I write during noon, so before getting lunch, is my time where I make my daily renders, and that is always that time. If I'm very hungry, I have to get a little more hungry because the daily render comes first. And I've been very, very persistent with this, which had a few very great advantages, also for client work. Which first, I got super fast at working. Like I said, sub 2 hours for any of these, and I very rarely get above 3 hours, above 2 hours on any renders I make. Then secondly, I know how to. I learned how to not have art blocks, not how to, how to work without, how to work with an art block, but I learned how to not have them, which is a blessing when working with clients, and they go like, hey, we have this idea, what would you do with it? I can come up with like 10 concepts in like half an hour and just show them all that, and they always are very happy with that. As well as I've been getting better and better every single day. That is probably the biggest advantage of these renders, because I force myself to do something every single day, and that way it stays in my mind. So even if I don't use Cinema 4D for, let's say, 10 days or a month, I don't unlearn how to do certain things anymore. Out of these daily renders, there came my most famous project, which were the barn finds. The one on the other has maybe seen one of these images before. And I made these in November of 2022, just to test out my dust shader that I created, just to see how fall-off nodes work and just to experiment a little bit with it. And since I'm a massive car guy, I decided to, let's make a few automotive enthusiast hearts bleed by having them abandoned somewhere in a garage. The funny part about it is that most of these cars are so new that they cannot be looking like this yet, which leaves everybody looking at it, what the hell is going on? And the reason that they got so famous, I think, is simply because the untrained eye thought it was real, and they got shared everywhere, including news sites that claimed that they are somewhere in Dubai, which they're definitely not. I even online got corrected on what it is, because somebody said, hey, this is just fake. And a comment underneath just says, no, it's not, I was there. No, you definitely weren't. And it was just a really fun experience. And this was the first time that I achieved something that I would call photorealistic, even though it's not super detailed. It is the bad quote-unquote lighting that makes them look real, which is this like super amateur flashlight, really quickly just, I gotta take a picture for Instagram on this. And the whole lighting setup on this is exactly what it would be in real life. It's one camera, one light above it, super bright, that's it. And it works like a charm. And then after a few weeks of people asking, because I only made like 10 or 15 of these, people started asking, like, we followed you for the barn finds. Why don't you make barn finds anymore? Because on the image before, you saw that I also make different things. Like I make different topics every single day. I don't stick to like one thing. I just do whatever I like exactly that day. So I thought, you know what? You're right. I could do some more barn finds, but I don't want to do the same thing again. So I decided to flood a few cars and just super expensive, super new cars, flooding them in garages, and and just wonder what people are gonna say about it, and what new theories people are gonna invent on what it was, which is actually the most fun part about this. Reading all the comments and seeing who lies and who thinks about what could it be? Is it models? Is it a video game? Is it real? Is it And then in what was it? I think it was April or May. Those Dubai floodings happened in real life. So I thought, hey, you know what? Let's take that as an inspiration as well and do this exact same with Dubai too. And this is where, like, during this time, I kind of found a lighting way to, that I will show you later in the Cinema 4D that I really think almost fools the eye now. I can still see everything that doesn't work in these renders, but I don't really I don't want to say I don't really care about it because I do it in one day, so I have to really optimize my workflow to thinking, okay, what will everybody see? What will only I see? And so I leave a lot of things away that people will simply not look at. I'm going to point out a few flaws if you like. For example, on here, the way that all this grass is scattered on on the window. I don't think it would look like this in real time, or that there is a wall behind that window that shouldn't be there. But I simply, first of all, that wall is there because I forgot to delete it before rendering, and I just didn't want to re-render it again. So I just left it in there, and that's the thing, nobody will notice. And you can save yourself hours of time by just doing only what matters. And one scene that I brought for you today is the center one, which is the Pagani Utopia. And I brought this scene because it's hilarious when you see it in the scene file, because it's so much more simple than what you think. And just have a few models over here that are spinning, nice spinny cars. Also, the texturing process on these is all nodes. There is no substance painter on it, nothing. It's all just materials, nodes, and very dirty, quick work. The way that I put, for example, all of these needles and leaves on it is I just copy the entire body of the car, delete all the materials off it, and take 2 or 3 different decal textures from Quicksilver, smack them on that body, and make that body like 0.1% bigger than the actual car body, and then you already have the entire body covered in leaves and whatever. And together with this mud material, the effect looks convincing enough. So what does the scene look like when you look at it in Cinema 4D? This is everything. This is the entire scene. The house goes below the entire water surface. The water surface is not even that big. What is big is the surface beneath because it reflects above. So in this scene, there's only things that will visibly affect your scene. There's nothing outside of it. There are only trees that actually make shadows. No other trees. There are only walls and greenery that actually reflect in the cars. No other greenery. And these are all hand placed. You can place them within a minute. Push the house down, put the water in, and of course I'm saying this as if it is actually not that much work, but it's just like I optimized the workflow for me fast enough that I can do it really quickly. And looking at the lighting and other texturing, the lighting in my scenes is a very, very simple thing. I sometimes use HDRIs, but most of the time for these renders where there is no visible sky, I just use a daylight and crank the power up to like 20 to sort of get this like washed out, overexposed look, like amateur photography. And if we have a look at the debris on the car, you can see that the debris is floating. And this is usually something that you spend another 20 minutes fixing. But if you put the daylight in, it's not that visible anymore, so why fix it? And all the little glitches like you see on the right fender over there, there's like a little displacement glitch where there's a black outline around the needles. Just paint that out in Photoshop and you're good. Added the ground, added water, added debris the same way that I added the leaves on the car. So let's go into the scene for a moment, and I'll show you around a little bit. Hold on. Could we, by the way, just for a second, turn off the screen because I have to insert my password into the Octane, and I don't really. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, great. All good. Thank you. You can go back to the... So let's go into the scene. Also, one thing that I like to mention for these scenes, as realistic as they look, they are very not heavy on the computer. So like you could render these with like 3 gigabytes of VRAM essentially, because they're really, really not that heavy. The only heavy thing is the shader on the car, but that's about it. And as you can see, the scene is flipped. This is basically because I created the scene before thinking about that I wanted to flip it later. Or I created the scene, and then while in the process, I figured, like it would look better if it was flipped for some reason. And so instead of, moving everything in the other direction, I just said, okay, you know what? Let me just flip all the text in the scene, and then flip everything later in Photoshop, and then everything works out again. So essentially, the Pagani sign in the background, for example, this one, which is where was it? Which is this one right here, back. It is just a decal on a plane, and in the scene it is flipped, so it reads backwards, because after flipping it in Photoshop, the text should be right again. So looking at the scene, where's my camera? There. Also, don't mind the mess on the right side. I don't have to send this to anyone using it in a pipeline, so I don't organize anything in my scenes ever, unless I have to work with somebody. And so if we look at all of these decals, for example, you can see that this is just a copy of my car body that I pretty much just selected one by one, like just going through like this, selecting all the car parts that need dirt or need debris on it, and just copy that onto the car, slightly bigger than it, so it's visible, like that. And I do this to all the cars. And the thing is, once you do this with one material or one car, you can do this to all the other cars. You basically just create composite and mixed materials for every single material that you used. And this is being very quickly. You basically only have to make the shader once and apply it to all the objects that you want. They all get dirty. They all have debris on it. And yeah, that's how that works. That's how you can do this stuff in like literally minutes. And like I said, the thing that I spent most time on is, different sun angles, different rotations. That's pretty much it. That's also why I have so many daylights in here, as you can see. These are just different iterations of what I do. So I create one daylight. I'm like, yeah, that's nice, but maybe I can make it better. Make another copy, disable the old one, do everything again, and see if I can make a better lighting, and so on and so forth. And after I have like 4, 5, 6 different daylights, I go through each of them and select the best one. And I do the same thing with camera filters. I think over here I only have 2 cameras, but because the second one already was perfect. And yeah, that's how that works. And the same thing, of course, also on the house. The entire house has also a second body with just the leaves on it. Like that. And then I have a second scene brought as well, which showcases which showcases another problem with the. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. There. That showcases another problem that I just don't fix because I don't have the time to do it, which is this one. As you can see here, this is a raw render from Octane, and then on the right side there is the finished image. And with displacement, there is always a problem when your UVs are not set right, which I don't do because I don't have the time for it. I just use cubic mapping for everything. Like, I think unless the car has a livery on it that already is UV'd, I always use cubic mapping for literally everything. And just play around with Octane nodes to pretty much, sort of make it not as visible. But the problem with displacement is that it creates these really ugly outlines. As you can see also over here, it just breaks the mesh for a reason. And I could spend time to fix this, UVing it, setting the font tags right, or I could just render it out and just Photoshop it out with the Band-Aid tool. And that's what I do. That takes seconds and has the same effect. Of course, this is a little bit harder for videos, but I have to say that most of my work are still renders. And let's see. Oh yeah, of course. Also, I fixed things like these. Like there's a little bit of sky visible, which I think is a little bit off-throwing. This like bright left corner. Just paint it out. And one thing I do for social media, I don't know if it's that visible on the screen here, but the right one is a lot sharper and a lot crisper. And I over-sharp every single image in Photoshop a little bit, because it really brings out this crispiness on social media. For client work, maybe it's not that necessary because it's going to be very large anyways. But if you're on a small little phone, it's only 1080 by 1350 in resolution. It looks like it's 4K, which is a really cool deal. Saves a lot of render time as well. Coming up next is the other scene that I have here, that I opened up on accident earlier, which is this scene right here. You saw it earlier in the presentation too. And I want to show here the lighting setup that I created. Also here, of course, the scene is very small, very dirty, just not very cleaned up, but it serves the purpose, and that's what matters. The entire lighting setup, as you can see, is the camera with a tiny, tiny light above it that is extremely bright. It is not the brightness is not coupled to the size, of course, because if it's just a small light, it would be really, really small, very, very dark. And as my camera settings, I always use something in the 40 to 55-ish, depending on what look I want to have. In this case, I want a phone look, and phones have a quite low focal length in that sense. Whereas the human eye usually has about 55 focal length, roughly the equivalent. So depending on what look I want to go for, I just use that focal length. I personally don't know anything about cameras, so my entire knowledge about photography came from Cinema 4D. So it was like reverse learning, sort of. Let's see, what else do we have? I think I should show you the shader that you can download. By the way, if you scanned the QR code earlier on, you can get access to all of these shaders that I created. I translated them to Redshift as well. So I've been just starting out in Redshift, so I thought it would be a good way to learn the render engine by translating a few of my shaders first. And I'm sure there are Redshift users here. I'm sure there are Octane users here, and whatever plugin you use, you can use these shaders for free for anything. If you mention me in your posts, that would be always nice to see. I just have to see where my materials are, because the interface looks a little different from mine. Where is it? This one? Oh yeah, thank you. It looks a lot different. Like I forgot to bring my own interface, or like my own layout. So these are the shaders that I have. As you can see, it's a mixed material, which is a little bit outdated. Nowadays, you use composite materials, but it is just my comfort zone to use mixed materials for now. So yeah, let me open that. There we go. So the node setup here is super simple. Let me just arrange this. The node setup is here super simple. This is the entire shader, which is essentially a fall-off node that puts out a black and white image of of angles of a surface. And in this case, I set that to a 90 degree angle, meaning that there's only either dust on top or only mud at the bottom of the object. That one is mixed with a noise to just break up that evenness a little bit. Output into a gradient to control the sharpness and sort of like a contrast for the fall-off node. Both of them are added together with a grunge map that is there to further control. Where is this? Here it's very well visible. To further control these little streaks here. So the octane noise is actually there to control the main shape of these what do you call it? Of this seam. Yeah, seam. To control the main shape of the seam, and then I have the grunge map on top of that to really add in those fine little details. for the mud. And then in the two materials, you basically just have your dirt material and your car paint material. That's about it. And as for the car paint material, I use a material by Smouse, which that node tree is a little bit crazier, but I don't ever do anything in that. And by the way, this goes. Sorry. By the way, one thing I would like to say about my work, I rarely, very rarely model anything. It is something that I just really don't enjoy doing at all, which really helps me, which really opens a lot of doors for me to work with other artists that model these cars. I have a few friends that, make cool body kits and stuff, and they go, hey, I made this new Porsche body kit, do you want to do a render with it? I'm like, of course, let's do it. And so it leaves a lot of space to collaborate with people. And yeah, like I said, I don't like modeling that much. Has nothing to do with the software. It's just generally I don't really enjoy doing it. What I love doing is creating materials, creating shaders, lighting, and rendering. That is what I truly, truly, truly love doing. And for the end of the presentation, I would like to show you a little quote that really always inspires me with my passion. These are two quotes by Rick Rubin. The audience comes last. I'm not making it for them, I'm making it for me. And it turns out that if you do something truly for yourself, you're doing the best you possibly can for the audience. And that is something that sometimes is not obvious because you think, I have to maintain a certain standard. I have to maintain a certain look to, have people enjoy my work. But people will see that you do it for them and it will not turn out that well anymore. Whereas if you do it truly for yourself, they see the passion and they like it a lot more. And the second quote is about corporate and commissioned work for larger companies. They're not being made by a person who cares about it. They're made by people who are trying to make something that they think someone else is going to like. And that's not how art works. That's not art. It's commerce. And those two quotes just stuck with me forever. And they just really, really nail down my entire mindset of why I do what I do, why I do how I do it, and how I would like to continue to do it for the next, I don't know, like daily renders, my current goal is 10 years. That doesn't mean that I'll stop then. I still love doing it every single day. And, we'll see where this journey leaves me. That being said, that was my presentation. If you like to check out my work, make sure to, check out on social media. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free now or later on. I'm always around for the day.